Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our director Q&A with the director of Jang-Gae, Chang Chih-wei. This event is part of our 2022 Taiwanese Film Week and is partially funded by the Taiwan Academy's Spotlight Taiwan grant. I'm Adrienne Wu, a research assistant at GTI and the host of Taiwan Salon, GTI's cultural policy and soft power podcast. GTI is a 501(c)(3) think tank. We are dedicated to improving relations between Taiwan and the world. And to that end, we have a number of programs, including frequent public seminars, podcasts, as well as a biweekly publication, the Global Taiwan Brief, and cultural events such as these. So Chang Chih-wei, the director of Jang-Gae, is a Taiwanese-Korean who grew up in South Africa. Although Jang-Gae is his debut feature film, he also directed the short film Hide and Seek, which was nominated for the Best Short Film at the Asia Pacific Film Festival in 2009. His latest short film, One Way Ticket, was awarded Best Director at the Mediterranean Film Festival in 2016 and also won Best Short Film at the Chakdamuk Short Film Festival in 2016. So thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
To begin, could you talk a little bit about your life and how you ended up becoming a film director?
As far back as I can remember, I've always been an outsider, a misfit all my life. I was born to a Taiwanese father and a Korean mother, and was raised in South Africa during a time known as apartheid. And for those who don't know, apartheid was a political system in South Africa, in which people of different races, different colors are separated. So basically, I struggled against racism and exclusion at school while learning English and Afrikaans before I could speak my mother tongue. And after finishing university and military service in Taiwan, I moved to Korea and went to graduate school and practiced filmmaking there. So basically, I'm an outsider to my native Taiwan, having spent most of my life outside the country, and an outsider to both Korea and South Africa for being foreign born and raised in a far different culture. So the struggles with identity and culture confusion have always been the core part of me. And on the other hand, I'm the kind of person who holds in my feelings and thoughts quite a lot, while also tend to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings and conflicts. So I normally need time to process what I see, what I hear, and what just happened in front of me. And so that is where filmmaking come in to the savior. It helps me to express my feelings and thoughts through moving images indirectly, subtly. So filmmaking, I've always thought filmmaking is kind of like an inner journey of my own psychotherapy.
Could you explain the meaning behind the title Jang-Gae? So what does it mean and why did you choose it as the title of the film?
Due to the political reason and historical reasons in the past, South Korea motivated laws directed against foreign property ownership, resulting most Hwagyo, uh, known as ethnic Chinese people living in Korea specifically.
Mhm.
So they could only sell jjajangmyeon, fried sauce noodle, in Chinese restaurants. So some Koreans, they use the word jangge, which means sauce dog. It's a
Mhm.
derogatory meaning similar to chink, referring to
Mm.
Chinese. So additionally, Hwagyo were also unable to get Korean citizenship and could only reside in Korea as foreigners while holding a non-citizen passport provided by the Taiwanese government. So they're basically the political orphans who are caught with mixed identities in a foreign land. In Korea, people take them as Chinese, whereas in Taiwan, people take them as Korean, and they get treated as an outsider wherever they go. It's kind of similar situation to Zainichi in Japan. And
Mm.
so the reason why the word "janke" is used in this title is simply because that this is a story about Hwagyo. This is a story about these people. And of course, I know that this is a bad word. In fact, some people were even offended by just learning about the title. And
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's like making a film in the States and using the N-word as the title, obviously. Yeah. So, however, we made this film with good intention and didn't want to criticize anyone or anything, or even judge between right and wrong, good or bad. I just wanted to talk specifically about the problems of the uh, inequality and injustice that actually happen in the lives of many ordinary Hwagyo. So, getting the story out there and hoping more people will understand and pay attention to the difficult situations that Hwagyo have been facing for many, many years, that was my number one priority. And for this purpose, we decided that it would be more accurate and effective in terms of exposing the subject on a title that stands out.
Yeah, yeah. I think the title is very interesting because in a way it kind of forces people to self-reflect on the words that they use to like in talking about these groups of people and the ways that they are discriminatory. And it kind of reminds me of when I was in university doing media studies, my teacher was talking about how for documentaries, it's very important to like cause a reaction. And it's not necessarily something that is comfortable, but by causing that discomfort, we kind of can create a change. So I think that maybe also the title of your film is kind of can work in that way of causing that discomfort, but then people have to kind of self-reflect and think about, what, how do I use this word? How have I seen it? Why is it bad? What is the feeling behind it? So I think it's a really good title, even if it is maybe a little bit controversial.
Yeah, people get offended a lot.
Yeah. Um, so kind of, I guess, going back to what I was talking about before, but expressing your experiences through characters. But just like the character of the film, you've had a variety of transcultural experiences. So not only are you Taiwanese Korean, but you also grew up in South Africa, and you're talking about how that kind of led to this feeling of being an outsider. How have these experiences contributed to how you approach Jang-Gae? And were there parts of the film that particularly resonate with your own life experiences? Like, was
Well,
there kind of thought of like how autobiographical you wanted to make it versus
mm,
like how much you wanted to distance yourself from the film?
like I mentioned previously, struggling with identity and culture confusion have always been the core part of me. And living the life of an outsider definitely shapes how I see things. And as a matter of fact, it wasn't until I become a filmmaker that I come to realize that being an outcast isn't all that bad. In fact, it gives me the freedom to stand apart, free to be myself, free to work anywhere in the world with different people, whereas giving me a perspective to see things differently and more clearly, and most of all become more self-reliant, if I may say. So, most of the incidents which took place in the film were indeed inspired by actual events, including my personal experience and the experience of my friends and relatives. So, I wouldn't actually call that an autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like it's a collective experience of a certain group of people. Yeah. And so, well, for instance, the scene where Gwang-yong got attacked by the police, right? That really happened to me. And
Wow.
yeah, and the situation was even more intense, more serious than what you saw on the screen. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I mean, but it's
Uh,
good that you're able to show these in film and kind of, express these experiences. I also agree with your thoughts about, I think being an outsider kind of sometimes can lead you to maybe be more observant of different things because I think maybe sometimes when you're trying to fit into different cultures and you're observing people, that kind of gives you a bit more insight into people's behaviors and kind of allows you to be more adaptive. So I think that it's really great that you can also look at the positive sides to it as well. So it's not all negative. There are some benefits that can be gained from it too.
well, we should always look at the bright side, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Life is
definitely.
short and bitter.
Yeah. But I think it's great that you're using those
Mm.
particular skills of yours in filmmaking. as someone who has a mixed background, how do you relate to your own different identities? Are there times when you feel more Taiwanese or more Korean? Like personally, because I'm Taiwanese American and I grew up in Canada. So, those different identities to me, they kind of shift in and out. And sometimes I feel more Taiwanese, sometimes more American. But they're all parts of me. It's not like I leave any of them behind. So I'm always curious to how other people also relate to having different identities. If there's one that you feel is most dominant, or you kind of just shift in between them.
Well, I mean, it's in the blood, obviously. So
Mhm.
it's there 24/7. It's just it's always there. The matter is that whether a certain aspect gets triggered or not.
Mhm.
Well, I definitely feel more Taiwanese whenever I see Taiwan being treated unfairly and excluded from many international organizations, and not to mention being bullied by certain nation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. But that's from the bottom of my heart. That's when I truly feel more Taiwanese when I see those kind of stuff happening and in front of me. On the other hand, I feel more Korean and rather uncomfortable whenever I encounter hate speech and actions against Korea in Taiwan. Because as much as people love K-pop, BTS, samgyeopsal, makgeolli, soju, and these Korean waves, these stuff, there is this love-hate relationship thing going on in the
Mhm.
Taiwanese society. So, well, especially when it comes to sport events,
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh,
or
sure.
anything that, yeah, or anything that seems to be competitive. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I think these are the times when I kind of feel more Taiwanese or more Korean, like very directly, and comes like head on.
So speaking of, because you brought up, K-pop and kind of the Korean wave as well, like how have you kind of like experienced that? Like, do you think that it's very exciting to see this rise of interest in Korean culture? Do you feel like it's inauthentic? Do you kind of, how do you kind of process this, and what kind of thoughts do you have about it?
I mean, well, personally, I'm also kind of like I'm really fond of K-pop and Korean cinema since I was a kid.
Mm.
And so I think it is a good thing because we have this Korean wave and introduced to the global society and people get to know more about Korea. So I think it is a good thing that people get to uh, know a country, know a culture deeper from a wider perspective and from different aspects. Yeah, so I think it would be really nice if actually Taiwan could also come up with this kind of Taiwan wave
Yeah.
can actually yeah, and I'm pretty sure that this will help bring up recognition to the global society.
Yeah, no, I totally
Yeah.
agree. And I think, your position as a filmmaker really helps you contribute to that. It's films like yours that could be part of Taiwanese wave potentially. Ho Yen-wen, the main actor, sorry, for the film is also an overseas Chinese who has grown up in
Yeah.
South Korea. Did you specifically look for someone with this background to star as the main character?
Well, the language itself plays an extremely important role in this film, since more than 80% of the lines are in Korean, whereas the remaining 20% are either in Mandarin or Shandong dialect. Therefore, my goal was to make the film as realistic as possible. If the character in the script was a Hwagyo, I would cast a Hwagyo. If the character was Taiwanese, I would cast a Taiwanese. If the character in the script was a Korean, I would cast a Korean. So that even if they all speak in the same language, you can still grasp their social, cultural backgrounds through their accents and vocabulary choice. Because
Mhm.
in my personal experience, I believe that subtle nuances could make huge differences.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think there are many ways in which identities can come through in a very subtle way. So I think that having someone who is closer to the character probably brings a lot more veracity to the role in ways that maybe we can't even think about, you know. So I think it is very important. Were there kind of perspectives that he brought to the role that you were kind of surprised about, or like as a director?
Like I mentioned, because the this project is actually it's a small scale film. It's a
Mm,
rather independent kind of style kind of film. So we don't have the luxury and the budget and the time to shoot for a very long period of time. So it was important to actually to get the actor kind of like into the character ASAP.
mm,
And especially for He this is actually his first time uh, acting in a leading role in cinema. So it was quite challenging for not just for him but also for me because we have this pressure that we have to finish the film in a very short period of time. So I have to make sure that he gets into the character, get into the Kwang-yong character as soon as possible. And that's also a reason why we actually casted him because Kwang-yong he's a third generation Hwagyo and He himself he is also a third generation. So the way they think and they speak and they react it's very close to the character, which is a good thing. So kind of synchronized nicely, and so yeah, I was very thankful for that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I could, yeah, actually, I didn't think about production time, but that makes sense as well.
Mm,
To kind of just, you know, you don't have to do as much training beforehand to try to get them into the mindset. They can already slip into it quite
true,
quickly.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only did you direct Jang-Gae, but you also wrote the film as well. So did your vision for the film change drastically from writing it to directing it?
Actually, the vision itself, or should I say, the initial emotions and hope never really changed. However, cinema is an art form that relies highly on collaboration. And unlike the writing process, once you get into production, there are literally numerous of things to take into consideration. You have to adapt to changing situations constantly, making tons of decisions and even compromises in order to get things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, like you were talking about the production time as well. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that maybe we as viewers do not think about, but you know, you as the director definitely have to consider.
Yeah, no, and also like we shot the film mainly in Korea.
Mm,
However, we still had a portion of the shoot which we came all the way to Taiwan. And so basically uh yeah, it was really hard to actually navigate the schedule with so many people. And also we even for the crew, we have like Taiwanese crew and Korean crew. And so yeah, you can imagine like on the set, like there are like Korean and Taiwanese and Mandarin everywhere, and each unit has to have their own translator, and yeah, and also yeah, typhoon.
mm, oh no.
That was a pain in a beep. Yeah, that was a pain. Like because like we shot the film in summer,
Mhm.
and we started in Korea, and it was just constant rain and typhoon, and by the end of the Korean shoot, we came to Taiwan during Moon Festival,
Mhm.
and we were so lucky that the typhoon actually came all the way to Taiwan with us.
Just didn't want to
We
leave you alone. It was so
we were s-
excited about the
yeah,
movie.
we were so blessed.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess maybe that lends a little bit of realness to the movie as well.
yeah, I mean that because like yeah, and in the end of the film, actually, when I first pictured it in my mind, it was supposed to be like a very sunny weather, like a sunny afternoon, because like after Kwang-yong, he'd been through like all these like really like sad stuff and very depressing stuff in Korea, and then he actually made up his mind to visit Taiwan for the very first time, and it's kind of like to reconnect with his father somehow,
Mm.
and so it's like it's like a change. There should be a change, like in his inner mindset, and also vision wise,
Mm-hmm.
also for the weather. And so at first I pictured like a sunny afternoon, nice sunny beach sitting there. But then, well, as you can see, it was like a typhoon
Hmm.
kind of weather, and like the wind was blowing and you can't even like open your eyes properly. Yeah, that was hell of an experience, but that's just life, and somehow that actually gave a different taste flavor
Hmm.
to the film actually. Yeah. So that was a surprise.
Yeah. So the ending line where he's like, I can't see anything, was that changed because of the weather?
Well, no, actually that line was there from the beginning.
Oh,
But
okay.
but yeah, it's well you can think of that way because we got so many shots that He Ye-won he couldn't even open his eyes properly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
I
it's
think
just
it
hmm.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it really lends like again a realness to it. It's like you go through all this, there is a sense of hope, but it's like, life is still life. It's not like everything is perfect.
Exactly, exactly. And so I come to realize that hey, that's not that bad because that is life. If you're not, it's not like life is not like a movie. It's like you're not always going to have happy ending. Sometimes it's like bittersweet.
Mhm.
And so I think bittersweet comes in kind of fits nicely in this film, especially like in the end.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's sad, but life goes on, and we still need to grow up and move on.
Yeah, yeah. I really loved the message of the film overall, I think to me it felt very truth. I mean, the
The wind.
Um, it was quite sad throughout, but at the same time, it kind of held a sense of hope throughout, and I really
Mhm.
liked the kind of
Thank you.
ending note, kind of a positive but not perfect note. It felt very warm and true to me, so I really enjoyed it. One
Thank
of
you.
the other scenes that really stood out to me was the sound design. So I was
Mm,
wondering if you could also talk about that. There was one scene in particular where he's listening to the rap music, and then uh, Jiun is there, and then you have the sound of the airplane, right,
mm, mm.
going over that shot. So I was wondering, could you talk a little bit about the significance of that? Why did you decide to put that particular noise in there?
Well, I mean, for rap music, it's because like Gwang-yong, although he's like a Hwagyo, but he was born and raised in Korea, so actually, he's just like a regular Korean teenager, like hip hop, rap, and stuff like that. And because he's a teenager, of course, he's like energetic and have all these thoughts about romance and be in love with a girl he likes, and
Hmm.
so that got nothing to do with the identity. It's just part of growing up, right?
Hmm.
And so I mean, we actually stress quite a lot in sound design in this film, and so well, actually that part like on top of the roof where the airplane actually flies over, that was I don't know. It was quite interesting because the place where we shot the school, the location was actually really close to an airport, and so that actually caused quite a lot of trouble while shooting because you get these constant noise and the ambient sound. But then we come up with the idea that we should adapt ourselves into the environment. So we didn't care too much about the airplane, and so we decided to take advantage of it. And so actually it came at that time and kind of like just boost it up and kind of like use it as a metaphor,
Mm.
kind of like describing how Kwang Yong feels like in his heart, like he's pounding so badly, and so nervous and so excited, looking forward and all together. Yeah, and that actually came in quite nice. Yeah, we heard quite a lot of nice reactions and response from people. They talk about that specific scene where
Mm.
the airplane that flies over. It's like people actually crack up when they saw that scene. It's like yeah, you have all these kind of imaginations, what's going on inside his head, right? Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
like it kind of explains the inner mindset of the character at that certain moment. Yeah.
yeah, I really enjoyed it because I think it very cleverly puts the audience in like that sort of mindset of you can't like focus on anything, like having like a rushing in your ears, like when you get close to someone that you like, and then all of a sudden your mind just goes blank. I think
Yeah.
that it really captured that feeling really well. And that moment, and then also the time where there's the drums going on, I also really enjoyed the sound of the drums. And then also when his father passes away and it's completely silent. I think like
Mm.
those three moments, they really stood out to me because the sound design just really put me into the mindset of the character.
Mm. Well, because like I said, this film I tend to make it as realistic as possible. However, we actually stress quite a lot on the sound design because
Mm,
if it's like realistic like all the way, and especially with this kind of very typical kind of drama, it's a bit dry, to be
mm,
honest. Putting like sound design to kind of like use it as a uh, explanation of the character's inner mindset or like more as a metaphor actually helps to flavor it up quite a lot.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also like sometimes in order to create a sense of realness, you actually have to exaggerate things because that's actually how we interact with the world. Like we don't interact at like a like steady rate the
Mhm.
whole time. We have these fluctuations. So actually by
Mhm.
putting those things in it, you actually make it more realistic and like more like the viewer can really get the sense of the emotions that the character is going through as well.
Yeah,
So I really enjoyed it.
because like we always like there's always constant up and down. It's not
Mm,
like it's always non-linear. I mean the mind state itself.
hmm
Right.
hmm
So yeah, I think that kind of helps quite a lot because the image itself is kind of linear. So we tend to make the sound design non-linear.
hmm
So yeah, the image more realistic. However, the sound is more surreal. Trying to create that kind of conflict, small conflict, and
hmm
spice up.
Yeah. Were there other things that you tried to kind of amp up, or was it mostly just in the sound design?
Uh, Sound design, yeah, we spend quite a lot on the sound design and also I also try to minimize music quite a lot and then also these unnecessary sound effects because I think it's important to use uh, blank whether it's an image of blank or like or sound because I think sometimes silence brings out more power than audible sound. So
Mm,
that's also part of the reason why I chose like very silent ambient for the scene where his father passed away, and also the scene where he had this kind of like dream or is it half dream half reality, like he was smoking with his father by the river. That scene, like we kind of like we use a lot of uh, ambient sound instead of music. Yeah,
mm, mhm.
to keep it kind of real
Yeah.
yeah, not too noisy, just very peaceful. But you still kind of get that kind of dreamy taste.
Yeah. Yeah, that really came through. Going back to the questions,
Mm.
so do you see yourself as more of a writer or a director, and how do those different occupations combine together in your work? Do you write and then direct, or is it kind of more of a fluid process? Like, take us into the mind of your creative process for the film.
Actually, I see myself as more of a storyteller with the intention of conveying a particular message or emotion through moving images. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I would say both.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like a painter, like but using different like film elements and then putting it together, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Mhm. So it does it So, but you were saying that it didn't really change that much from your intention to the beginning, so when and to when you were making the film. So you still had the same intention throughout, even if other things kind of changed around it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the intention never really changed. However, like I said, what has changed is that the environment, the constant
Mhm.
changing situation, and the reality,
Mhm.
like typhoon, weather, and production schedule, budget, and everything, a lot of stuff that
Mhm.
you have to take in consideration, and most of the time, although I'm the writer and the director, however, I don't actually get to make all the decisions
Mhm.
because, like I said, film is it's a form of collaboration, teamwork, right? And so, yeah, I mean, the intention never changed. However, yeah, the final output, the product might have been a bit different than what I expected in the beginning.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. So do you kind of have like a product in mind in your head that you try to match it up to, or is it just mostly based on just trying to be authentic to the feeling?
I mean, this is quite a tricky one because I mean, most like, 'cause when I was studying film school, we always we had this experience, and also like we used to face problems that normally we try to execute the film exactly how we actually planned it on paper. However, it's never going to be like that because you're going to run into so many uh, obstacles in the reality. And so in order to get things done, you have to be flexible. You have
Hmm.
to adapt yourself in the situation. And normally, most film students, they kind of fail and they can't, or they can't actually move up to the next level. Is that they kind of either reluctant or they kind of not willing to adapt to that to the change, to the reality, which could be a good thing because if you want to be an author, you should have your own color, right?
Mm.
Your own perspective, and there are some things that you should not compromise, which is a good thing. However, I think the part of learning filmmaking when I was in film school, what I learned one of it was that you have to try to adapt yourself, adapt to the actual situation in order, because the most important thing is get your work done, get your work
Oh,
out there, right?
yeah, yeah.
And also you also need to communicate with the audience, right? So yeah, I mean that's what I learned when I was studying film school. And so yeah, I mean that's why I said it's a tricky one because
Hmm.
you know that there are certain things that you cannot give up.
Hmm.
However,
Hmm.
there are stuff that you have to compromise in order to move on.
Hmm.
It's like s- I mean we, I sometimes joke around with my friends saying that like in filmmaking Like there's like only literally 10% like you're working on creative stuff and 90% you're dealing with politics. And yeah, and
So you
my
could be
friend
a
always
politician?
I don't know. Can I?
Well, we'll see, I guess.
Well, so
But
yeah, so I remember that my cinematographer uh he is a senior
mhm,
uh to me and he gave me a lot of good advice and also and there were times I was like I just cannot compromise with this. I just cannot give up on this and he keep telling me that this is just politics and so you have to learn how to negotiate like
mhm,
if you want this and he wants that and then you have to try to negotiate that. Okay, so if you want that then maybe I want to get this. It's always like making a bargain, like negotiating. That's kind of the art of filmmaking. And yeah, that's also one thing I actually learned while making this film because before making Jang-Gae, most of my projects they were kind of like really low budget independent films,
mhm,
although most of them are like co-production, like with either Taiwanese emerging filmmakers or filmmakers from Japan or Korea. However, they all kind of like stayed in a small scale.
mm,
And so normally the priority for us was to get things done and get the work out there. And so we always try to adapt ourselves to the reality, to the situation, to make things work out in a very harsh environment or even with a very low budget. But working on Jang-Gae is a privilege for me and it's a great honor. And actually, I learned a lot because this is the very first time I actually get to work on a project on a certain scale, although it's still not a like a large scale blockbuster film or like commercial film. However, it's still it has a certain budget and a certain scale of production. And so yeah, I learned a lot through the process of making Jang-Gae.
mm. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many different hats you have to wear while you're making a film, like writer, director, politician, sound design. There's many different things you have to consider, but it's very interesting to hear how you put it all together. Well, anyway, I think since we went over time a lot, I'm very mindful of your time, and I'm sorry for taking up so much of it. But thank you so much for
Yeah,
going through all these questions that I was quite interested in, and it's really fascinating to hear your experience as a director in the industry and kind of how you formulate these stories. So, yeah, thank you for sharing all those insights.
thank you for having me. Thank you.